What if I told you that buttercream could be sweet, tangy, and so good that I have to stop myself from eating it straight from the bowl? No kidding, I've had to remind myself that it's meant for frosting, not just snacking. No judgment, I've done it before. Well, today I'm making cranberry buttercream. And trust me, I'm going to want to put this on everything. This isn't just any frosting. I promise it's smooth, has just the right pop of tartness, and let's be honest, it's so pretty. It'll make all my desserts look like they came straight from a fancy bakery. And the best part, it's ridiculously easy to make. So I'm grabbing my mixer because we're about to whip up something amazing. Before I can make the buttercream, I need to prepare the cranberry puree. I always prefer using fresh cranberries because they provide the best tartness and vibrant color. But if fresh cranberries aren't available, frozen ones work just as well. Just be sure to thaw and drain them first to prevent excess liquid from watering down the puree. I start by washing 1 cup of fresh cranberries and sorting through them, removing any that are soft or shriveled. Next, I add the cleaned cranberries to a small saucepan. Then, I add 2 to 3 tablespoons of water to help the cranberries cook down smoothly. I pour in 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar to help balance the tartness. I cook everything over medium heat, stirring occasionally until the cranberries burst and soften. This usually takes about 5 minutes. And before you even think about turning on the stove, we need to prep these cranberries. No one wants mystery bits in their puree, right? I start by washing fresh cranberries under cold running water. This helps remove any dirt or residue and keeps the puree clean and fresh. Next, I do a little quality control, picking out any soft, shriveled, or discolored berries. Only the best cranberries make the cut. Think of it as an audition, and only the plumpest, juiciest ones get the job. If I'm using frozen cranberries, I make sure to thaw them completely and drain any excess liquid. Trust me, skipping this step can turn your puree into cranberry soup, and we are not making soup today. Once the cranberries are soft, I remove the pan from the heat and use an immersion blender to puree the mixture until smooth. If I'm using a regular immersion blender, I let the mixture cool slightly before blending to avoid splatters. Once blended, I pour the mixture through a fine mesh strainer over a large mixing bowl, pressing it through with a silicone spatula to remove any remaining chunks and ensure a smooth, silky texture. I let the puree cool completely before using it in the buttercream. This is crucial. If the puree is too warm, it can melt the butter, causing the buttercream to separate and become too soft to pipe properly. Let's take a second to talk about storage, because trust me, you don't want to waste a single bit of this buttercream. If I'm not using it right away, I transfer it to an airtight container and refrigerate it for up to a week. Buttercream tends to firm up in the fridge, so when I'm ready to use it, I let it sit at room temperature for a bit, then give it a good re-whip. It might look a little stiff at first, but just like stretching after a long nap, a quick mix brings it right back to its smooth, fluffy self. Now, if I need to store it long term, freezing is the way to go. I can store it for up to 3 months. I like to portion it into smaller containers or even an ice cube tray for easy thawing, because who wants to defrost an entire batch when you just need a little? And here's a pro tip. Always label your container or Ziploc bag with the date and what's inside. Trust me, frozen buttercream looks a lot like frozen frosting failures from the past. And you don't want to play the guessing game when you're in the middle of decorating a cake. When I'm ready to use it, I thaw it overnight in the fridge, let it come to room temp, and then whip it back to life before frosting anything. It's like magic. Seriously, watching buttercream go from a firm, sad lump to a smooth, fluffy dream never gets old. But let's be honest, sometimes I forget to take it out ahead of time, which happens more than I'd like to admit. In those moments, I microwave it in 5-second bursts, stirring in between until it's just soft enough to whip again. Crisis averted, and frosting is back on track. If the buttercream still feels a bit firm after sitting out, I add a splash of heavy cream or milk and beat it again until it's perfectly smooth. A little adjustment here and there, and it's as good as new. Now that my cranberry puree is ready, I can start on the buttercream. In a mixing bowl, I start by adding 1 cup, 2 sticks of unsalted butter, softened. I always make sure my butter is at room temperature, as it whips up much easier and creates a smoother buttercream. I beat the butter on high speed for 2 to 3 minutes until it becomes light and fluffy. This step is crucial because properly aerating the butter makes the buttercream silky and easy to pipe. Next, I add the cooled cranberry puree to the mixing bowl. I mix on low speed to gently combine it with the butter, ensuring a smooth blend without separation. I take my time here, scraping down the sides of the bowl to make sure the puree is evenly incorporated. Once the puree is fully mixed in, the buttercream turns a gorgeous pink, and I can already tell it's going to be amazing. I continue mixing until the color is uniform and the consistency is silky and fluffy, making sure There are no streaks of butter left. The moment the puree blends in, the buttercream transforms into the most gorgeous pink hue. It's always so satisfying to watch. The tart cranberry flavor balances the sweetness of the buttercream beautifully. Then I gradually add 5 cups of powdered sugar, 1 cup at a time, mixing on low speed after each addition. This helps prevent a powdered sugar cloud from covering my kitchen. Once all the sugar is added, I increase the speed to high and continue beating for another 5 to 8 minutes. This ensures a light and creamy buttercream with the perfect consistency. One thing I've learned from years of baking is that buttercream can be a little unpredictable. If your cranberry buttercream isn't coming together the way you want, don't worry. I've got some easy fixes to help you get it just right. The temperature of your kitchen plays a huge role in how your buttercream behaves. If your kitchen is too warm, the buttercream can turn too soft and runny. If it's too cold, the butter can stiffen, making the frosting difficult to mix and spread. The ideal room temperature for making buttercream is between 68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 to 22 degrees Celsius. I always check my kitchen temperature before I start to avoid any unexpected texture issues. Sometimes, just adjusting the temperature of the room can make a big difference in how the buttercream turns out. If the buttercream feels too thick, I add 1 to 2 tablespoons of milk or heavy cream, 1 tablespoon at a time, mixing in between until I reach the perfect spreadable consistency. A little liquid goes a long way, so I take it slow to avoid making it too runny. If I accidentally add too much liquid, I'll pop the buttercream in the fridge for 10 minutes to firm it back up before re-whipping. If the buttercream is too thin, I sift in a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar at a time, mixing thoroughly after each addition until it thickens to the right consistency. Adding powdered sugar gradually prevents the frosting from becoming overly sweet, while still giving it enough structure for piping or spreading. Another trick I've learned is to let the buttercream sit for a few minutes before making adjustments. Sometimes the texture settles on its own, and all it needs is a quick mix to become perfectly smooth and fluffy again. If the buttercream becomes too soft because of a warm kitchen, I place it in the fridge for 10 to 15 minutes. Then re-whip it to restore its firmness without making it too stiff. If it's too firm from a cold kitchen, I let it sit at room temperature for 10 minutes before mixing it again to bring back that creamy texture. extra touch, I sometimes fold in 6 to 8 finely diced fresh cranberries at the very end. This step is optional, but I love how the little cranberry bits add bursts of tartness and a subtle chewy texture. If I'm planning to use the buttercream for piping intricate decorations, I leave out the diced cranberries to ensure a smooth consistency. I start by slicing the cranberries in half to keep them from rolling around on the cutting board. This makes them much easier to control while dicing. Then, using a large kitchen knife, I carefully dice them into small pieces, ensuring even sizes so they mix well into the buttercream without creating large chunks. Once I have my diced cranberries ready, I add them to the buttercream. Using a silicone spatula, I gently fold them in, making sure they are evenly distributed without overmixing. This step keeps the buttercream light and fluffy while adding small bursts of tart cranberry flavor in every bite. The diced cranberries give a nice contrast in texture, making the buttercream even more special. Now for the best part. Using this dreamy buttercream, whether I'm piping it onto cupcakes, spreading it on cakes, or sandwiching it between cookies, I know this frosting takes everything to the next level. It's sweet, tangy, and just the right amount of creamy, with a stunning color that makes desserts look like they came straight from a bakery. Every time I use this, people ask me what my secret ingredient is. And honestly, it's just cranberries and a little magic. The texture is silky smooth, and the balance of tart and sweet makes it irresistible. If you're anything like me, you might end up licking the spoon a few too many times before you even get to the frosting part. No shame in that. And there you have it. Homemade cranberry buttercream that's easy to make and even easier to love. Whether you're making this for a special occasion or just because you need more buttercream in your life, I promise you won't regret it. If you're looking for the perfect dessert to pair with this, stick around. My next video will show you how to make lemon spritz cookies with cranberry buttercream. You won't want to miss it, so be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you there.